Hey guys, so today I want to walk you through how to create an ABM list or a target list that does not involve prompting clone, hey, give me 50 companies that I want to go after for my company, which is an option, but I want to be more precise. I want to be more strategic. And this is a problem that founders face when they try to go up market. They try to sell enterprise deals or bigger deals, and they face this word like ABM or target list. So I want to walk you through how to do that in a more strategic way, in a way that has some thought behind it. So let's jump right into it. Let me show you something that might help you guys, which is this workflow. And I built this in a way that is not too specific. You can do this in Clay, you can do this in Claude. It's independent. So try to think of how I am approaching the problem other than where I'm clicking the buttons, okay? For this specific purpose, we are going to use Clay, but it can do pretty much the same thing, just prompting Claude with, of course, the setup that I'm going to show you today, okay? So here's the deal. I'll walk you through the workflow and then we jump into action, actually build it. So we start broad, okay? So you see, when you're trying to pick up a list of companies, it's ideal for you to start with 5K to 10K companies. And the reason for that is that the filtering is coming later and not right now. So you do not want to get a precise list out of the bat. You're going to get the first list of companies that's broad enough, and then you can apply the filters later, okay? And then the filters that you're going to apply at this stage, very simple, right? You're going to apply filters by exclusions rather than inclusions. So for example, if you're selling to the US only, you're going to pick the US region only, and that removes like 70% or 50% of all of the companies. And then you're going to apply some enrichments that are specific to your market. Okay, website keywords, meaning you scrape their website to find specific keywords, or unique pricing models on their pricing page, or web traffic data. Those unique data points are huge when creating a target list that has some strategy behind it. So that's the type of stuff that we really want to have when creating your target list, okay? And then for specific keywords, website scraping, you can do, and might be more effective in Claude because you can get the raw HTML and read the HTML file instead of actually using AI to scrape it. This is much more cost efficient. But let's not hop into that. Later, you're going to just apply a score, a weighted score, 0 to 100, 0 to 50, 0 to 10. Doesn't matter. It's just thinking of what are the data points that are more valuable to you, and then you add more weight to that. Okay, so if you're doing 0 to 10, let's say web traffic is more important to you, you're going to sum 5 given a certain criteria. Okay. And that's it. And then after applying the score, you just split them from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And this is going to be how you approach those companies. How do you do the outbound for them? Good. So let's do that in action, okay? Let's do this for a company, a very tech company. I'm going to use an example. So let's start in here, find companies. And then what I'm going to do is, as I said, going to be very broad in my filters. I don't want to get the right list out of the bat. For this company specifically, they are selling enterprise biometric solution to US-based companies, okay? To US-based banking and fintechs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, since this company only sells to banks and fintechs, I'm going to add that filter here. So fintech, financial services, banking, okay? And then I don't want to work with small companies. I'm going to do 50. And by the way, guys, you can do this in any other B2B database, Apollo, ZoomInfo, in literally anything, okay? It's essentially filters. They all pulling that data from LinkedIn anyways. So just using the very basic filters. A good tip, if you want to work with companies that are active on LinkedIn, especially if you're doing LinkedIn campaigns, you add a minimum audience here, because if a company doesn't have at least 1,000 followers, very likely they're either not active anymore or not relevant. Location, let's do location. It's United States. Okay. You see here, now we jumped to just 3.6 thousand, which is good. Okay. It's a good number. So let's do that. Save to new table. And then now I don't want to enrich anything here. I don't want to spend money. So this is the list. Okay. So now we are going to apply some filtering. Let's actually, for safety, just do a row limit of 100. And then here's where you're going to really think about your own company and about your own problems. This company sells biometric solutions. So the more technical their team are, the more technical headcount that they have in the banking as a total headcount, the better. What I want to say is if they have more technical people in their organization, the better. How do they go about doing that? There's an enrichment in Clay called headcount by criteria. You can do this right here. And then what I'm going to do is job title keywords. I'm going to add biometrics and let's do, I don't know, DevOps. And this is where we're going to spend most of our time. This is the strategy part. And then we're going to, and let's do this first batch and see what happens. So what this is doing is it's scraping their employees and finding roles that have that criteria that we just added, which is job title contains QIC and job title DevOps. So you see, some companies have way more than others. Okay. And this is important. The more roles they have within that criteria, the better for me. And this is going to be one of the filters that I'm going to use to score. And another one, and let's just do two for the sake of this exercise, headcount growth. And this is another one that might apply to pretty much any company. Okay, let's remove that. And this enrichment is scraping how much they grew in the past 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or last month. And for me, what's relevant is how much the employee growth in the last 3 months by a percentage count. And then I also have employee counts. And the reason this is important is now that I have employee count and how many employees are in a certain department that I want to work with, I can get a percentage. What does this mean? I can tell now, let's do this, divide employee headcount by criteria, there you go, by employee count. Divide whole count by employee count. And this is going to give me a percentage, and that I can use to filter. Okay, it got me by a decimals here, but think of this as a percentage. The higher, the more fit this company would be. And this is going to be one of the criterias that I actually want to have. So the criteria they're going to use here to score is essentially if employee headcount growth is higher than 1%. Since this is banks, those are banks, so add 10. If employee is higher than 100, actually, let's do 200, add 5. And just adding those two, I don't want you to touch a long video. But now I just click generate. And then you're going to give me a sum, right? And this is it. Whenever, and by the way, guys, I just did those 2 criterias, but ideally I want to add at least 4 or 5 criterias for me to at least have somewhat of a better score in here. So in here, I'm just mapping out the ones that are higher and just summing, but ideally I want to have, if a company is below X, you can decrease the score by X amount, okay? If this is a waived score, this is the correct way to do that. I'm not going to do this right now, just for the sake of time. But this is it. And at the end, you notice that you have for each company a different score. And that's what I want, okay? And at the end, I'm going to tell, imagine I have a list of companies now from 0 to 50 scored. I can tell if score is 0, I'll put tier 3. If 5, I'll put tier 2. If 10, I'll put tier 1. Oh, there you go. That fixed the issue. Nice. All right. So now, guys, I have a list of companies and I only did 10, but you can see I have a list now of companies that are spread between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Ideally, the way that you want to approach this is 80% of your list should be below tier 2, either tier 2 or tier 3, because the remaining 20% is the companies that you really want to go after. And this is your target list. What do you do if you have a sales team of, let's say, 5 or 10? You get those 20%, divide them equally by the sales team, and that's it. Now you tell your sales folks, hey guys, this is your quarterly target list. And by the way, let me show you one more thing. You can set this to run. You can run the entire columns, all of the columns quarterly, right? And what happens now? You're going to get a different target list every quarter. Imagine how amazing is that? Because now you, instead of having a static list that goes the entire year, you have that by quarter without lifting a finger. And where does it take the most time, guys? It's just thinking about what type of enrichments are relevant to your company. And this is where you spend the most time. Spend time there and build that on top of any other tool. I use Clay, but you can do this in Claude. Thinking a way of clicking where I'm clicking the buttons, think of what type of enrichments am I doing so you can replicate everywhere else. I think that's it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. This is how I do target list for most of my clients and actually all of my clients. And this is how I approach ABM list building, basically. That's it, guys. Hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.